Hey guys, welcome back to the Real Estate Sales Summit. You know, we have a very special guest today from the Lake Norman, North Carolina, kind of a little bit north, northwest of Charlotte, a little bit more north than west, but northwest of Charlotte. Been there for many years, been in real estate for many years, $400 million in production, former appraiser, tons of interesting background, but I want to welcome Rich Tomasini from eXp Realty and that Lake Norman area. Welcome to Real Estate Sales Summit.
Thank you. Good morning, Robert. It's a pleasure to be here.
You got it. So, Rich, before we get into your specialty and what our focus is going to be in today, give everybody just a little bit of background on where you came from, how you got into real estate, and where you are now.
Yeah, I'll give you the cliff notes and try to condense this in a minute or two. I dropped out of college in Gainesville. Apparently, you had to keep a certain grade point average in order to maintain enrollment. That was news to me. So off I went back home to Fort Lauderdale, and in order to reconcile with my dad, who was furious, he said that it's either going to be manual labor or I'll take an apprentice job being a real estate appraiser for him. So anything to get back to the dinner table there and put the family back at ease. So I became an apprentice, and in 1999, I started working for my dad, who was a phenomenal real estate appraiser. I got a very, very good education through him. And when I left Florida in 2005, right before the market crashed, I left because I saw the market crashing. I came to North Carolina, and I always felt like as an appraiser, we were so educated, but we were always looking in the rearview mirror. And I'm the kind of guy that looks outside the windshield. I live in the present. Sometimes I get caught up in the future too much in my mind. But living in the past is just not something that ever speaks to me. So I got my sales license to sell real estate. I took a year off. I was 28 when I moved here. I took a year off, and I had a horse farm, so I had plenty to do. And I finally got a haircut and shaved and went to Remax. And at 29, I started a team called the Synergy Group, and we started to sell real estate. And we were the second biggest team in North Carolina, 8 months of the year. I was a listing agent, and I had no money to invest in, so I became very good at prospecting, which I think we covered a bit. And then fast forward to 2017, I was in the top less than 1% of the 15,000 agents we have here in Charlotte in production. I was a solo agent for most of my career. Then I found two other lost puppies that wanted to work together. And then we had a team called the Lake Crew, and I went to Lake Norman Realty, which is the last family-owned real estate company. They have 5 offices here. I ran the biggest team for that entire organization. And I came to eXp in 2017, and I changed focus again. So I was an appraiser, then I was a real estate agent. And then in 2017, I wanted to work on being an entrepreneur and not just a technician. So I made the transition into trying to build an expansion team that would expand beyond my zip code. And fast forward 2 years, I've got over 800 agents in 4 countries and 26 states, and I'm kind of learning something new again. So I have a short attention span. You'll find that out, Robert, throughout this interview.
I love it. Hey, that's what makes it kind of fun sometimes.
Yeah, you got to mix things up. I've been in this industry for literally half of the years I've been alive.
Right.
And it's nice to learn something new and keep pushing yourself, because as a realtor, you're always learning, but you do get to a point, which people don't talk about, where you pretty much know almost everything outside of what's changing in the industry.
Yeah. Well, and that's where it gets interesting, and we'll go into that in a little bit later. But people get into their comfort zones when they become a realtor and are selling houses, and they forget that they need to continue to grow and to learn and to branch out, which is why they're getting their butts kicked right now in a lot of cases.
I agree.
Yeah. So let's get into this. So we were talking, and you love listings.
Yes. So, again, this is kind of counterpunching for me, right, Robert? So
yeah.
I wanted to be a buyer's agent because I watched House Hunters International, and that was a good enough connection point. And I started talking people out of houses. I couldn't turn off my appraiser mind. I didn't feel like that there was enough equity in the properties. For quite a while, the market was going down, so I endorsed people renting and not owning into a certain point. And so I wasn't selling a lot of houses as a buyer's agent. I didn't know where to get my buyers, I wasn't very good at aligning my morals and the need to actually pay my bills. So I became a listing agent because I figured if I had the pricing point squared away, I can learn the marketing part
Yeah.
and I can feel more honest in my own sensibility. So I started prospecting for sell by owners, and that was day one till about day 90, and then I never did it again. Only when I train agents. So I hit it very, very hard for 90 days, and then the repeat business just continued to compound.
All right. So two things there. Let's go one direction. So when you're prospecting, because you said two things interesting, you did it for 90 days and then the repeat business. So that's two separate things. So when you hit that for 90 days, what was your approach to get for sale by owners to list with you? How'd you do it?
So it was exhausting. Back in 2006, the internet was not what it is now. We got to contextualize the time frame, right? So
Yeah.
I had no money to spend really that I was comfortable advertising because I didn't have a lot of experience in what advertising is good and what's not. So I opened up the white pages in Mooresville, North Carolina, and I started at B. And I just started calling people and asking them if they had any interest in knowing what their house was worth.
Wow.
And so I did that. And then concurrently, I went on fsbo.com, for salebyowner.com, and then owners.com. And I started to hit those people because I knew they were interested in selling their house. And between those two sources of people to contact, I was probably making 50 to 60 phone calls before lunch, and I wasn't just pounding them out like a robot. I'm not a telephone terrorist, but I was exploring conversations, asking questions, and trying to figure out what are the buttons that keep me on the phone for more than 2 minutes, but not more than 7 or 8, because at that point we're just pen pals, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So,
So
so that
you
was my
narrowed
approach.
it down when you did that. You made those phone calls to narrow down and see if there's something there. Did you ask questions to find pain points or to find out who they knew?
I believe in asking smart questions. Uh, I'm not really learning much when I'm talking. I'm only telling you what I know, which is such a finite amount of data. So asking important questions does a couple things. So I'm an ex-fighter, right? So I was a teacher in Muay Thai and boxing,
Huh.
uh, and I like counter punching. That's my way of keeping my energy and working through business. And I make the analogy a lot toward fighting because there's so many similarities. But what happens is that when you get their guard down, you don't have to muscle through all of it. And people are comfortable talking about themselves, and they're giving you the information that you want to know anyway. So instead of it being like an inquisition, I thought it would just be much more natural and would flow as a conversation. I was really just experimenting, trying to get the blueprints of what's going to work that I can repeat and shut my brain down and work on autopilot. And I found that asking good questions, talking about the evaluation, hitting motivation points, being sincere, making them laugh, agreeing when they're right. These were like just little basic ingredients like oil, pepper, and salt that you're going to use on a lot of meals.
Yep.
And I funneled that down into the point where instead of being a white belt on the phones, I was probably a brown or a black belt radically quickly. And pretty much I was converting 4 to 5 appointments that I went on. It became
Wow.
very, very easy.
Nice.
Still very
Nice.
easy. I got 2 new guys that I taught this technique to in the last 12 months, both under 30. One did $4.9 million of business. The other one did 42 transactions. So
Nice.
nothing's changed.
Yeah. No, and it hasn't. And that's where I think people get, they start chasing squirrels out there with all the technology companies that you get a phone call from every day or see an ad from. And the basics work.
They still work.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long they'll always work, but there's going to be basic communication skills that we're going to always need to make true connections.
Yeah.
And one thing I think, Robert, a lot of people do is they find one point of connection and they put too much weight on that. You can't move mountains with one point of connection. Like we both like Jeeps. I drive a Jeep, you drive a Jeep, right?
Yep.
But if we connect on 3 or 4 points, we can do almost anything. It's a quick phone call. Rich, I need this. And it's like, yeah, no problem, of course. So I think that's one thing that on the phones that you have to learn how to do is connect on 3 or 4 points very quickly. And then you can lean on the relationship a bit more.
Well, and there's your key. You're building a relationship when you make that initial phone call.
Oh, if you're not doing that, then I don't know how this business is going to work. It's about forming relationships, servicing relationships, and being accountable to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the
Interesting.
yeah.
So when you get them, so you did that for about 90 days and then you started getting, and then you were busy from the referral process. So what was your process once you got a listing to the point where they're giving you referrals?
Okay, so I think the first thing that a lot of realtors don't do is they get all amped up when they have business coming in when they're new. They never set expectations. So I always set expectations. So when I'm on the phone, the only thing I'm trying to do is get into the house so we can be face to face. First of all, it's a lot harder to say no. Second of all, we can connect a lot better because you can't quantify energy over the internet the same way. So when I got into the appointment and I felt like they were ready to go, I always went for the knockout right away. I never did the two-step appointment. I always went for it right away. And I would just almost assume that I had the business. Say, look, this is our process, right? So I got to get professional photos done. That will be done within the next 48 hours. I'll be here. There's a couple things that I want to have changed in the house before we photograph it. The same day that we're getting photographs, we're going to have the measurement guy. So you're not taking a lot of time off work and you don't have strangers in your house day after day. We're going to do it all in one shot, right? And I'll get all this data back within 24 hours. We're going to go live on the MLS. I'm going to send you a template of what it looks like. You make any corrections that I might have missed. You live in a house, I don't. All right, so I definitely want your proofreading on this. After that, we're going to start getting showings. I'm going to forward you the showings so you can approve them, and then I'm going to get you feedback within 24 hours, even if it kills me, right? And we're going to keep some dialogue. Then on top of any conversations that we need to have, we're going to, every Friday at 5 o'clock, we're going to talk about what happened the last week and what we have to move forward. And that might include some open houses, right? And I always do it at Friday at 5 o'clock because what I found in my experience was when they're disappointed, they're connecting over the weekend to talk about what a bad job you're doing. So it's kind of good to get right in front of that, you know? This way, when one of the people that owns the house says, you know, we've been on the market for 7.5 weeks. The other person says, yeah, well, Rich actually just called me last night and he wants to do an open house Sunday from 2 to 4 or whatever, you know? I spend a lot of time on the evaluation because that's what's going to make us successful. Let's just frankly, let's just strip everything away. Good pictures and accurately priced houses move the earth. Everything else you be sloppy on.
You mean, so you don't take a picture with the toilet seat up, you don't take a picture with the underwear hanging off of the bedpost and things like that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder, Robert, take pictures of 90-degree walls.
No doubt.
When I look on Realtor.com, I look over at my wife and I say, sometimes I feel like this is the largest profession of unprofessional people ever assorted.
Yes. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So then what you're also, so from an appraiser background, your process of actually valuating a home and putting that value on it is probably much more detailed than most agents do.
I don't even use the CMAs in the MLS. I've got a class on my YouTube video that breaks it down. I use my own grid, which is like a sales comparison grid that you see on the appraisal reports.
Yep.
There's 3 approaches of value, right? There's the sales comparison approach, which is our typical CMA that we use in residential often, right? There's the income approach, which we use in multi-units and income generating properties, VRBOs, commercial property. And then there's the cost approach, what it would cost to replace the property minus depreciation and other elements like that, right? That's pretty much the most, the least accurate. It's like horseshoes versus sniping out an approach, right? That's good for insurance companies. They've actually, I think I don't know if they've even removed that from the appraisal report because I'm so long gone from that business. But the income approach is very, very important. I only invest in real estate that has an income element to it, okay? Because they're more economy proof.
Yeah.
The sales comparison approach, which we spend all of our time as residential real estate agents on the CMA, is using averages and algorithms. It's like a Zestimate, right? I mean, good luck. Yeah. So what you have to do with the sales, when I hear agents talk about price per square foot, right off the bat, I know that I'm going to outwit them in the negotiation standpoint, right? We break them down based on features, age, lot size, square footage, condition. All right. Maintenance is not upgrades, 2 different things, right?
Right.
Bathroom count, marketability. That's something that appraisers are blind to, right? If you have a 1,000 square foot house with 4 bedrooms or a 1,000 square foot house with 2 bedrooms, I promise you the 2-bedroom house is more lovely to walk through, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not, yeah.
Not a cluster, right?
Yeah. Right.
So external obsolescence, functional obsolescence, you have all these different elements. So I break it all down and I come out with an evaluation. And in the listing presentation, if I'm at the listing presentation for 45 minutes or an hour, which would be on the high side for me, we started off with a tour of the house because I've got to see and feel this out. I write a list of things that we can fix very cheaply, very affordably, and then I write a list of things that we could talk about and possibly avoid, and then I price the house out, and I make sure that my CMA that I brought over is accurate.
Yeah.
It holds up. And when we sit there and we talk about that, I spend probably 15 or 20 minutes on the CMA, to where by the time we get down to what the number is, they've already guessed the number or are very comfortable with it. But very rarely do I have somebody disagree with me at the end of that process.
Yeah. Well, you are, you, it's interesting because you're finding that value of everything, and you're actually explaining, it's your part of your entire presentation where you're explaining the price prior to giving it to them and justifying what that is. And you're coming from an interesting point of view as an appraiser, that you've seen so many of them. And of course, that I'm sure you use because you're going to say, hey, listen, you've got to price this right, because there's going to be a guy like me that's still doing my job coming through to make sure you're priced correctly.
And I meet them with the comps,
Yeah.
and I don't have appraisal issues.
Yeah.
So, and I meet them with the measurements, so they're not sweating, measuring houses, and I try to make things easy. So
Nice.
yeah, totally the case. We deconstruct the process.
Yeah.
And frankly, by the time you're done with that little step of the listing presentation, you've gone from being a realtor to a consultant, and there is never a question of your competency.
Well, here's what you just said right there. That's very cool. Realtor to a consultant. And that's something that Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com can't do, which makes you better as the local expert and person that can serve and give value.
Robert, 100% correct. So you could use any of these companies that will have iBuyer programs. We have an iBuyer program, right?
Sure.
You could use any of these companies that can give you an offer on your house, or you can have anybody open the key to another house.
Yeah.
The difference that a professional real estate agent offers the public is that we win.
Yeah.
Anybody can get you to a closing table, but my people are smiling at the closing table because we know that we've outwitted the other side. So I'm not looking to do transactions. I'm looking to win. And we win by doing transactions, but that's the focal point.
Love it. Love it. Outstanding. So how do you service listings? What do you do? What's your process, communication process? How do you get them to the point where they're going, I love Rich and his team, and that's who I'm always using?
I'm accessible. I answer my phone. Okay. If I were to teach a class to 1,000 students right now that were sitting there and I showed up 20 minutes late and they were all aggravated with me, I would say, everybody pull out a pen, answer your phone, and then I walk right out of class. If you could just do this one thing and learn this one thing, we're going to be in good shape. I call realtors when we're looking for property all over the place. I can't get anyone to return my call.
Hold on, wait a minute. Time out. So you said that you actually talk to people?
Yeah, I mean, you imagine that?
So that's different too, because most of the agents now they've even gotten away from emails, and it's just text message, or I'm not sure what the heck they're doing. But
let's break that down, Robert. This is an important rabbit hole to go into for a second.
Yeah.
Text messages are meant for short, instructive messages, not to convey points, to move people on emotion, not to calm people down, which is a very big component of our job.
Yeah.
That's not what text message is for. We've lost the scope of what that medium is here to provide. And for those who have forgotten that, it is very expensive, because what's going to happen is the difference between you getting to know your client is that you had a transactional relationship that led to no more referred business.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you're back to that point of saying, all right, I'm truly building a relationship. I'm speaking with someone. I am there when they need me, because they're going to need you,
Yeah.
right? Everybody does. And you're becoming that resource for them, that consultant, as opposed to a real estate agent or even a realtor, which, as we know, that's a whole different rabbit hole. But text messaging cannot disseminate or evaluate or help emotions.
No. So a text message for me with a client is just a quick reminder, we got a showing at 2 and an overlap at 2:45. I'll follow up with a phone call later this afternoon. Now, if I have a younger client, which I have a lot of them, I'm now older than a lot of my clients, oddly enough, right? I don't know how that's happened to me, but
Yeah, but
anyway,
you're still young, man.
this is the oldest I've ever been, Robert.
That's right. That's right.
So they say 40s is the old age of youth and 50s is the youth of old age, right?
Yeah. All right. Let's go with that.
They say a lot of things, my friend. So when I have clients that rely on text heavily, um, I'm not blind to that. I need to use that medium for them to be comfortable, but I also have to make them uncomfortable. I'm the one that's leading this process. They make all the decisions, and I give them all the options, and I'll give them solicited and unsolicited opinions on what I think is the best route. They make all the decisions. I control the process. Part of our process is that we're going to talk, and I'm going to hear your voice because you have to hear mine. I'm a lot more sincere on the phone than I am by text message because my directness comes off as brash,
Yeah. Yeah. But, you're straightforward. You're telling them what they need to hear, not necessarily what they want to hear.
Exactly right. And it's been my experience looking back the last couple decades of my life. People know what you're saying is true, and they trust you more when you say it out loud.
Yeah.
Then they're able to say it out loud.
Yeah.
And when you're missing those little moments in the deal, you're constantly a hamster on the wheel. I mean, most realtors are as good as their pipeline, which is awful because one thing we all know is that we're all going to die, and most of us are going to get sick, and that's why we die. And as soon as that happens, your business is out of business, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
relationships can weather storms that the transactional relationships can't. So if it was my goal when I was 29 years old and I was starting this real estate business with no experience, no mentor, no nothing, right? In a state that I knew nobody, just brand new. It was my experience at that point that if I could get 50 people that would trust me and recommend me, I could do business for a long period of time. I've been sending out 50 Christmas cards, Robert, for 14 years. And some of the names have changed, but really, I know, I'm at my maximum limit on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, right? But really, it's 50 people that have really supported me in this life.
Yeah.
And probably 30 of them have been the same from 15 years ago.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thing because the average person speaks with 8 people a year who are buying or selling a house. So if you're top of mind with 50 people,
300, yeah.
You got it. Do the math. It's pretty easy. So let's go there. So you send Christmas cards. And what else do you do do you actively ask for referrals? What's your process of keeping in touch with people?
No, I've never asked for a referral. I feel too cowardly about that. It's too submissive of a position for my fragile ego to get me to that point. I've never liked the way it sounded, so I couldn't get my head around it. What I do is I perform at a level that other agents aren't performing, and then they can sell me for me. So I can even be more honest and more direct and more myself if that's already been done. So the way that I don't do any gifts I don't even do closing gifts. I don't know if that makes me stoic, but the closing gift is that I honestly worried about this property maybe more than you did, which is why all my hair is gray. So we've got to get to a point where, and I've done pro bono real estate deals. I did 104 short sales in 2009. So I pick my moments, right?
Yep.
But my average price was about $800,000 and it started at about $60,000. So moving that price point up got me to the point where they were expecting a certain level and they weren't getting it. They were getting the image without the content, or the content without the image, or the results without the warm and fuzzy feelings. You have to wrap it all up. You have to catch all of it. So with my clients, I don't even follow up with them through any kind of contact manager, even though we have a brilliant one here at this company. It never opened it. What I do is that when I think about them, I text them or I call them or I send them a picture or I use social media. This way it's organic and it's real. It's not like it's Monday and I've got to call a client from 9 years ago. It's like, hey man, I'm going to grab some lunch and I'm going to be down in Charlotte next week. You free for 40 minutes? Let's catch up.
Yeah. Let's go have a cup of coffee.
That's it.
Amazing. Well, you're treating all of that top 50, whatever the number happens to be for whomever, you're treating those as family and friends. And when you think about them, you pick up a phone and make a call.
all my friends are past clients. I didn't know anybody in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have a friend that I think, let me think. I don't know if I have a friend. I have one friend that I've met outside of this industry. 50% of my friends. No, I'm just
There you
joking.
go. All right. So how did you go from 60,000 average to 800,000 average? I know somebody's going to see this and say, wait a minute, did he just say he went from a 60,000 average to an 800?
Yeah, well, I was out of aggravation, right? So I mean, that propelled me to start thinking. Listen, I'm working ridiculous amount of hours for this ridiculous commission, but I was desperate and I said no to nothing.
Yeah.
I said yes to everything. And what happened was, as a buyer's agent, you were subjected to whatever price range they were in, so you had no control. But as a listing agent and a person that's not afraid to make a phone call, I had total control.
Yeah.
So I started targeting properties between 250 and 400 until my confidence got up. And then I made a deal to myself. My New Year's resolutions professionally have always been about price point. So I think somewhere like in 2013 or 14, I said, I'm not taking a listing under 400 grand, even if it's a slam dunk. And so I passed on 2 listings and got referrals on it, which made me so upset that it propelled me to make more calls. And then I just would never go less than a certain amount. And I just kept pushing it up. And then once I got to the price range I was comfortable at, I took anything that I wanted. But I would penalize myself until I hit that mark.
Nice. So you had an expectation, but you also developed the confidence and the knowledge to get there as well.
I had to edge my way up. I didn't have, I was too intimidated by the high end listings early on. So I had to build that, right?
Yeah.
So once I got the trading wheels off, we were able to upgrade bikes. But I just got to a point where if I understand evaluation, you could just pick me up from here and drop me in Des Moines, Iowa, give me the resources and I'm going to work. I can extract what the adjustment should be in 2 or 3 days if my cell phone's quiet, right? So once I had that confidence, it was just a matter of talking to people that were wealthier that had more transactions than first-time home buyers, which, by the way, appreciated me more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it worked out well for me there. I think that being an agent, you have to constantly push yourself out of your structure because you have no structure. You're a 1099. Okay. So for example, like if I break down on the side of the road in my Mercedes and I get out of the car and I'm on the cell phone and you pass me at 70 miles an hour and never crossed your mind to even stop, there's no way. Why would you stop? Right. But if I break down on my Mercedes at the intersection and you see me put it in neutral and get out and start pushing it across the intersection, you might pop your car and park and come give me a hand,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And 10 people might, right?
That's right.
So no one's going to save you in this business. You're going to save yourself, all right? You're your own boss. You're the entrepreneur. You're the manager. You're the technician. So if you can't drive results and you can't be steadfast for 1 to 2 hours per day, you're going to fail miserably unless you're very popular. And I wasn't very popular.
So 2 things in that which were really interesting. I want to make sure people heard that. So you are responsible for your own results, not the company you're with, not the team you're on, not that you.
Robert, if I'll use ABC Realty just to not
Yep.
offend
Yep.
ABC Realty had the resources to make all their agents successful. Every agent would be successful, right?
And every agent would be there.
That's right. Some of the agents are using all the resources and then they're bringing their own game, which is ambition, resilience, ability to get uncomfortable,
Yep.
right? Those few little characteristics that have laid dormant need to be activated and they need to be reactivated.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that for yourself, hire a coach, and don't hire a real estate coach necessarily, right? It's an option.
Yeah.
I hire a real estate coach for real estate advice. But you might need an accountability coach or a business coach or a leadership coach or somebody, a colleague to keep you in line. For me, I've always been self-motivated. So I'm confused when people suffer from that, but I do understand it's a real thing.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. And then you said something too about making sure that you are focused on doing what you should be doing for at least a couple hours a day.
Okay, so stop me and choke me through this thing when you've had enough, okay? Very quickly. All right, so let's go back to the boxing, right? So in the boxing, if I'm only counterpunching, I can only score when someone's taking a shot at me.
Right.
And this is your email, your text message, your social media, all your incoming, your phone calls. Okay. I can't go on the offense. I'm too busy counterpunching. Right. What made Mike Tyson very effective is that within the first 60 seconds, he put the pressure on you so intensely that you just wanted to go home and ask if your mom would bring you a warm glass of milk. That's it. Right.
That's
So
right.
the way that I consider my time blocking is that if my cell phone does any single function outside of making outgoing phone calls or text or posts, but I believe in phone calls, outside of going on the offense, then I am not on the offense, I'm on the defense. So I time block. So when I wake up at 6:15 in the morning, because despite the fact that I'm in pushing my mid 40s here, I have 2 kids under 3. So some people have a midlife crisis and buy McLarens. I reproduce. I don't know what's going on. Right? So anyway, I bought
That
my
was for you, Jay and Al, by the way.
my wife Mace for Christmas. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I haven't slept in 3 years. So anyway, let alone her sleeping schedule. So anyway, so what happens here is that 6:15 till 8 in the morning is time that no one's bothering me. So I can get a lot done in that period of time, right?
Yes.
Or I can work on my morning routine. I combine both
Yep.
of them. By 8 o'clock, most of the world's up. By 9 o'clock, everybody's moving around, right? So I say get every single thing that you need to make sure that your financial future is going to advance done before the world wakes up. And then from 9 to 10, when they're up, get them activated. And then if all you do is counterpunch from 10 till 10 o'clock at night, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But you got to go on the offense. And I always say go on it early.
Yeah. 100% agree. Yeah. That's what I don't think people understand, especially in real estate, because they are 1099. So their time is theirs. They don't have to punch a clock going in and punch a clock going out, but they don't set their schedule. They do exactly what you said. They're counterpunching. They're not taking control of that. So you time block and you make it so that you've got that done every day. That's when you get your most important thing done.
That's why they're slaves to the cell phone, Robert. If you think about it, how many agents, while they're eating dinner with their spouse or partners or friends, are on the phone, right?
God.
I would never. I made it a rule early on, in which I broke twice, by the way. Never date a real estate agent because I actually want someone to focus on the conversation, right?
Yes.
So I mean, the point of this is that you got to get to a place where if your clients are totally informed and you're in front of the 8 ball and they know that you're on top of it and they can call you at any time if business is being done, they don't even bother you at night. This is not a 40-hour work week. I don't know why people think of this. This is 5 minutes here and there all day long, mismanaged, and managed properly. You go on the offense for 1 to 2 hours a day and you work 20 hours a week and you make $400,000 or $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
But you have to be honest in that period of time.
Yeah. You have to focus on what's important and
Yeah.
that one thing that will get you there.
And you got to get better. I have a 3.5-year-old boy named Ronan, and then I have a 7-month-old son named Vigo. And it's so funny to see the differences in their age. Ronan right now is a little adult, talks to you, understands things, doesn't rationalize totally yet, but he is in the world operating as an adult. My son Vigo at 7 months is frustrated because he's not walking, right? So he can only voice that in right? Which is the same as realtors saying, "Oh, this is harder than I thought." No.
Right.
It's everything is harder than you thought. Right now for him, just saying doing anything is harder than he had expected, right?
Yes.
So we're all babies at this, and you have to go through the growing pains to get through it. What makes a realtor successful in this business for decades is pain tolerance. It's only pain tolerance.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So very, very cool. So what else are you doing? What are you doing to market a listing? We'll kind of backtrack and get back on that topic.
Sorry. My bad, Robert.
No, the outstanding. I mean, this is really people need to understand what this business truly is about. It's not glamour. It's not wearing the nice clothes and driving the car and having the nice house and all that kind of stuff. It's a very simple business. It's not easy.
Yeah, social media is the representative that you wish you were. It's not an honest assessment of what's going on. And when you have realtors talk, the conversation is nothing like what you see on Facebook, right? So yeah, I mean, totally the case. It's hard, and it's also awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't punched the clock. I've been a 1099 or an S corp my whole life. I don't know what it's like to have a boss. The only boss I've ever had is me, and I couldn't stand him. So I mean, I'm telling you, this is a kill. I've gone from everyone thinking that I wasn't going to do anything in my life to be able to generate more income than most doctors and attorneys will ever make
Yeah.
as a non-college graduate real estate professional.
Yeah.
And it started as an appraiser, it turned into real estate agent. Now it's a virtual ownership organization that I work on.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do in this lane. So the market listings has changed. That conversation has changed. Back when I started as an appraiser, we used double-sided tape and had to wait for the film to put the pictures of the comps on the report to hand turn them in. Okay, so obviously things have changed. The IDX that we use through MLS will get you on, your typical 50-something websites, right? And I showcase everything on Realtor and make sure that my Zillow reviews are high and all that stuff. And I'm speaking a year out of practice. Okay, but I think that video on it and social media is big. If I was taking a listing today versus an agent that was 62 years old, that is dynamite.
Yep.
I would say, listen, man, I've got thousands of followers. I might be able to even avoid the MLS just with the hype of this and have this property sold where you're going to have none of that. And then if I was a 22-year-old, I would say that about me.
Yeah.
And if I'm going against a 22-year-old, I'd say, listen, I've got a Guns N' Roses t-shirt older than this guy. The 10,000 mistakes that I've learned in this business are not on your clock. So you've got to spin this in the way that suits your ability. But it automatically goes everywhere. We're not doing a lot of work. What we're doing is we're controlling what it looks like. So I spend a lot of time in comments, in agent remarks, and in remarks, public remarks. I got to paint a picture. So when people make a decision, you have to think about it. Have you ever made a logical decision about a house? Not really. It's emotional. And then you validate it with logic and you tell your friends and family the logic that you used. But when I walk, like my wife and I were looking for a modern house and I live in a craftsman section of the world, right? So we're looking at these houses and I'm like, I don't know. None of this, I mean, they're all nice. None of this stuff connects with me. I should be living in California, right? I mean, at least architecturally, right?
Yep.
So when we built our house, we built it based on emotion. I built a house surrounded by other homes that are 30 years old. That was not a smart move. It was a move that was emotional, and I know better. But I'm living there, and I want what I want, and I think that there's a market out there that wants the same thing. So I'm not going to have to compete with all the other properties. So we made the change, and with listings, it's emotional. The comments have to paint a picture of how the people are going to experience the house. Like, for example, when I'm at the property, I'll sit there and I'll talk to the seller and I'll say, hey, listen, where do you have your coffee in the morning? Where's the good light on this house, right? What's your favorite part of the house? And then I have to try to recapture that in the comments. So the pictures say 1,000 words, but the feeling of what that house can present itself, I think, is often missed.
Pure gold right there. It's not just a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's as you walk into your new home.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
The pups out back are safe with the fence.
Yes. Yes.
So if you put your eyes down to Instagram, no one's running your kids over necessarily, right?
That's right.
I can state that out. But
That's
these
right.
are things that are the little neurotic worries that everybody has.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Rich, we are coming to the end of this section. So any additional advice you'd give somebody that's watching this, anything you want to leave them with?
Yeah, I think that I want you to think about like a triangle is your real estate business plan. Okay. At the top, you have social media and your sphere. You have to work that constantly. Okay. Constantly. Make sure it's your voice, not someone else's voice. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but that has to be continually done. And that means Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of it's got to be done. And you have tons of downtime. When you're at an open house, work on that. Okay. The second part of that triangle, doesn't matter which tip it is either farming or buying leads. Okay. If you're not going to prospect, which is the third tip, you better figure out how to farm and how to buy leads. Buying leads is like going for the knockout. Farming is like working the body. Take some time to get there. Okay. Do both. Do one of the two. Do something. I promise you, it's probably cheaper than being on a team. And I know teams hate when I say that. Okay. And then the last part is prospecting. Okay. Prospecting You know, passive prospecting is posting on Facebook, making comments, engaging with people through Messenger, stuff like that. I don't believe in passive being enough for me. It's enough for some, right? Aggressive prospecting is picking up the phone and calling for sale by owners and expireds. You'll never spend a penny. You'll end up being so good on the phone that that skill will help you communicate with your spouse. It'll help you with your friends. It'll improve your ability to think off the cuff. It will make a ninja out of you in the communication department. So that's the one that I can probably add the most value, because I'm not really a tech guy, although I don't ignore any of the components that make a full rounded business work here.
Nice, nice. Well, awesome. Well, thank you, sir. How does somebody get in touch with you?
833-EXP-REAL. Press 1. I've got a lot of agents on that phone number. I am number 1 on that. And then you can find me on my YouTube channel, Rich Tomasini, Realtor, or you can find me on social media somewhere.
Perfect, perfect. We'll put those links down there as well for somebody who wants to get in touch with you. Rich, thank you so much. Very grateful for you, for your time, for your knowledge, and wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, same here, Robert. It's a pleasure to be under your tutelage here. I appreciate the lessons you gave me before we started here, because we do something very similar. So thank you very much.
You got it. My pleasure, sir.
Thank you.